And now on the line from Donegal is Neasa Ní Chnáimhsí. Neasa, welcome to the programme.
Thanks very much. How are you, Darren?
Okay, cool. Neasa, I got in touch with you to do this interview today to get your reaction to the compensation package announced last week by the government about Mica, and I saw you speaking on New York TG last week about it also, and you spoke very well. I previously have interviewed Aoife Nikian about the campaign. Could you start off, Neasa, by telling our listeners on Near FM a bit about your own story with Mica, please, and then tell us your reaction to what the government announced last week?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so we live in Buncrana in Donegal. 80% of the houses that have Mica are in Buncrana. So this community has been hit wild hard with it, you know. But personally, we moved into this house 2004. Hadn't noticed any problems for several years and just got tested there maybe 18 months ago. So we had started noticing cracks, but kind of didn't know what to put it down to. But eventually they got bad enough, and other houses on our development, because we live on a housing estate and there's 28 houses in this development. So there's 3 of them due to be demolished any week now when they can get the paperwork sorted. So it looks like all 28 houses will have to come down ultimately. But obviously most of the people in those houses can't afford the $7,000 it costs to get the testing done. Anyway, we got the testing done about 18 months ago, came back that we will have to demolish. We are in a better position than most, thankfully, because we have maybe 3 years to play with. The house will be okay till then. But it's really important that people understand there are lots of people, hundreds of families out there at the minute that are literally trying to get the house to get through one more winter. So they're far worse off than we are currently. In the meantime, since then, everybody's thousands of people here are just trying to come up with a plan as to what they're going to do whenever they have to move out. So some of them have moved out already. The first of the families on our development, for example, moved out there about a month ago, and their house is due to be demolished, as I say, any day now. But some of us will be here for a good long while. Ultimately, it means that this housing development, for example, will be a building site for maybe 20 years. Because if they're getting it done house by house and you're waiting on everything to fall into line in terms of engineers and the council, and the whole thing is incredibly complicated and has put a massive stress on the community in general, really, but on us in particular in the last year or two, because we would have an autistic child and he's 12 and really has no understanding of what's going on. So we're not sure, whatever plan we come up with, we're not sure how that's going to work out for him, you know. It's a lot of pressure. The news that came out last week was long awaited. There had been 7 delays on the government coming up with a plan, and each time it was like a kind of a further slap in the face, Darren. It really was. Like we felt like we were being put on the long finger, kind of. And you know, people down the country. I mean, I'm from Monaghan originally, and I was in Clonus at the weekend with family. And I was talking to my dad, and my dad said, "Oh yeah, are you not happy with the scheme?" And I looked at him and I thought, no, I'm not happy with the scheme. Like, anybody who looks at the figures can see, it doesn't take you to be, you know, while into the technical stuff to see that this does not work, and it's far from 100% redress. So my dad said, you know, well, he's got 100% redress. And I says, no, we got far from it. And he thought, oh, but that's just the big houses. And this narrative here about the big houses is what's damaging the campaign and it holding things up. And the government have been wild manipulative about turning taxpayer against taxpayer. And we're constantly having to explain ourselves that we don't live. I live in a semi-detached house. It's 1,500 square feet. You know, it's nothing majestic. It's a grand wee house and I love it. But I do not want to move out of it for a year and a half, maybe 2 years, just to move back into the same home. There is no way to make a profit on this. It's impossible to make a profit. It's impossible to break even. So for people, you know, even from Monaghan saying to us, oh, you should be happy, we're like, this is going to cost everybody tens of thousands, regardless of whether you live less than 100 square feet home or more than 2,000 square feet home. It varies, but it's going to cost tens of thousands to every single house involved, and there's thousands of them.
Okay, I saw the Minister for Agriculture, Donegal Fianna Fáil TD, Charlie McConlogue, reported over the weekend as saying that he believes that you will get 100% compensation. Do you think, does what he thinks fill you with any hope, or do you think he is lying or being just naive?
I think no harm to him, but he's toeing the party line. So Charlie has to know, you know, as I say, that the sums aren't that complicated. He knows this is not 100% redress, but he is affiliated to that party, and he's not in a position to kind of go against them. It is strongly felt here, and in Mayo as well, because obviously this affects Mayo and some other counties as well. It's strongly felt that maybe Charlie hasn't spoken up sufficiently for the people of the county, but not in terms of kind of loyalty or blind allegiance, you know, but just speaking the facts. Like, it is a fact that we are nowhere near 100% redress. It is a fact that the government have skewed the figures so that the headlines are reading about this 420,000 cap. Like, that is a myth. That does not apply to any house because the other cap applies before that one does. The other cap, which says that we can build them for 145, and if they were to allow us the 145 per square foot, that might work. But they're not. They're only allowing that for the first 1,000 square foot in the area of the house. Beyond that, then they go down from 1,000 square foot to 2,000. They go down to 110, which is just impossible. Any engineer will tell you that, or quantity surveyor. And beyond that, then anything over 2,000, it drops to 100. So, you know, we're getting 145 per square foot, but only for the first 1,000 square feet. So even if you lived in something the size of a shed, you're still going to be paying thousands to build it up. And even beyond that, Darren, it's so important people understand this. Beyond that, we are going to be out thousands. When we do eventually get the house done and get back into it and pay all the architects and the solicitors and everything that needs done, we have to go back to putting the carpets in, to painting the walls, to tiling the floor. You know, like, all that stuff is going to cost us thousands. So I just want to kind of plead to people to look at the figures and look at the facts, because this is smoke and mirrors by the government, and it's a real eye-opener to me how they have handled this situation. And it's far from just Charlie that's involved there, you know.
I remember around the time of your last march in Dublin a few months ago, Leo Varadkar said, I remember he saying on television that he thinks that, like, he said that he thinks you should get most of the funding money for the compensation, but he thinks you still should have to pay some money towards it. I imagine that was very kind of disappointing to hear from him so early back, was it?
Well, disappointing, but not shocking. You know, they haven't shown us much. Well, it has to be said, they haven't shown us any compassion in all this. They are more, their agenda seems to be more about spinning it so that the majority of taxpayers don't want to contribute to this mess that is of their creation. This was put to the government 10 years ago. Can you imagine how many thousands of houses were built between then and now for the fact that they didn't listen to what was said to them? This was laid in front of them 10 years ago, and over again, they ignored this problem. This problem only happened as a result of their lack of regulation. It's come out recently that the principal quarry involved up here never even had planning permission to work as a quarry. Like, there's so many levels of messiness here, but ultimately the buck stops with them, because like, these houses were getting built, you know yourself, back when the Celtic Tiger was about the place, it was just all about making money and taking people's money. And, you know, we didn't get to choose the blocks. We didn't get to choose the quarry that the construction people went to, but we were paying taxes to a government that was meant to be overseeing quality assurance. They failed to do that. And not only did they fail to do that at the time, but they ignored over and over again this problem it could have been nipped in the bud, you know.
So, when you say 10 years ago, that was Enda Kenny's government in charge then, was it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, you've actually told the TDs from Donegal and government ministers, maybe Taoiseach, about this issue, and you didn't do anything about it, no?
Absolutely, yeah. This has been in the news, like in the local newspapers in Inishowen for 10 years now. I remember moving up here. I only moved, as I say, from Monaghan, but I moved up here in 2002, and I remember hearing about this problem, and to be honest, I didn't give much of a damn at the time because, you know, and it doesn't affect you personally. But now that I'm kind of stuck in the middle of it, it's like, how could I not have paid attention myself back then? But then I wasn't responsible. They were responsible. They are responsible. And they will be responsible for years to come in cleaning up this mess. And and at the minute, see the county council when it comes to the application for the scheme and all the pedantic stuff, they're being incredibly difficult with people. And it's just like, isn't it a wild shame that they weren't pedantic about the rules back in the day? And we wouldn't be in this mess then. If they were to make life just a wee bit easier for people up here, nobody is looking to make any money. Nobody is going to make any money. If you look at the scheme in detail, it is literally impossible. You couldn't even break even.
Okay, Neasa, can you tell me about any upcoming plans this side of the new year or early in the new year? Like, do you have another march planned or anything like that? What's the story like?
Well, we're waiting to hear, you know, there are different kind of action groups. The Mica action group, Paddy Diver, you might have heard tell of, is kind of spearheading that. So yeah, I mean, the way things stand, there would have to be another campaign, or there would have to be another march, and more to come after that, possibly, because this just doesn't work. We feel like our hands are tied. We don't have a choice. Where are the tens of thousands for each individual family going to come from? We paid for this house in 2004. We paid 23% VAT on it. We're expected now to get planning permission to demolish it, to get planning permission to rebuild the same house, to get planning permission for the caravan you might have to put in the back garden to live in for 18 months. And then we're going to, on the new house, pay the 23% VAT again. This does not make any sense, and you can't make sense out of nonsense.
Aaron Lean initial gunning all to Neasa Ní Chnáimhsí and Neasa Fáilte Jane Clare.
Gaeilge down.
And Neasa hunning me who a conjure in New York TG Carl le Janie Mariala and Bagashta Kutiv a Dogra and Neasa and shocking your catch and Mariala Inis Mica Agus Sheelam go lar to on a white Stranorlar Agus t-agallamh dainta gom la hífin Nick Jan Mariala and Inis Mica Hannah Fain Fashion Visha latter deuce and Neasa inchin dar looked shukta and Mariala clear Fui dush scale Fain modular Mica agus inchin dún an sin cad a chiapan tú faoin facáiste a dógar an réaltas a Janie?
Yeah, Kinship. We'll go Nollaig dústar as solas a caiúr an rud seo go háirithe for cunium winter na hard carach, you know, it's our kindse an seo in Inishowen, you know, seo an tain our kindse really a bhéin siúil an tamar fad ahan lá, but tá sé inta go jo táhacht that gohfuil an siar fad a kaint faoi mar leis an uirne a dhéanú be an siar fad I géachas. So an seach saginne tá muid sitse in Buncrana átra bhfuil an cuideas módas na tithe bhfuil Mica ontu. Agus wog muid isteach sa teach sa bhléin javíle sa cehar. Agus níor thugmuid feibnar bí faidir go cionn na blianta, but firmwid na tastálacha an sin couple blian ó hin, beidir blian go laith ó hin, agus hánig siad arás go mé orín an seach a lagu. Níl buchas mór de dhia, níl mór an Jeffer oríne, a han seans go bhfuil couple blian agin go dtí go gaithí muid bogu amachas an seach. Agus bé orín bogu amachas an seach fá blian go laith nó beidir jav blian. Cudéir mar wahíam faoin rud a harla well an chartan shuhui hard an chartan chakacha vi GMA orin but niro intes orin egan am kierna an doi a kaihu lin egan realtas found na mleanta inish near kirsche intes to be orin goal should the geri cluas boar a horch doing agus goal should the torch nyau arja an aib an ten Tosaíonn the ta egan realtas we lahar na cion línse a yaru na cion línse a ta mui le fecail an an lehanach tosaí den nuachtan, na go bhfuil muid ligig fáil 450,000 fa cunne na díthe seo, rud nach bhfuil fear. Tá sé sin go homlan bregach, níl muid fiú a géirí cútú chéad faoin géad, na gaharbí clósailte dá. Tá muid déine sa teach aginne mar hampla, cosnaí an teach seo sa bhléon geabhíle sa cethair 185,000. Cosnóí sé hard for 300,000 inis. Cosnóí sé hard for 35,000 just an teach a lagu. So, tá sé de géirí an cuideas mód an costa sin a chlúdach cinse, but cosnóí sé don teach aginne go individual, cosnóí sé dúine 3,000. Agus teach master a bug aginne, teach lascute in a stad tíhíochta. Ní teach mór milse é seo atá site huas ar cric, So, tá an réaltas a géirí really dala walú go chur ar winter na tíra. But really, caihi pobl na tíra ar fad seasú glúan ar gúlan lin, an seo. Cudé a dhéan ha agus tú sa cás céarna. Da neartar leat go gaihi tú bogo amachas an teach ar fá blian go lein ó jaabhléan, bogo is teach sa teach céarna ní é sin. Hanna é bheith níos mó, níl mi sé géirí teach níos mó. Níor bhailam sa teach níos fearr. Tá mi sé géirí just an teach a déic mé as, seach nó 8 mbliana déag ó hin. Sin an rud agus sin an fá a ródíama orín an teachtain se caite.
Honing méid tuairis Carndonagh seachtain go nóirt an tara talmhaíochta an teachta dála ó gin an gáil Charlie McConnell go sílan sé go bhaid sibh cúisih céad faoin géad. Cad a hílann tú faoin torm seo atá ag a Neasa agus an si agus cad a hílann tú faoi heasamh na boratóirí eile i do dá cantar ar an ábhar Mica go generalta?
Yeah, well, brahan sé an fálateoir cuideacu tír stahardaí do seisnig genu, obair aintach agus, but ó héamh rud a dear Charlie, tá sé cliste mar so tá agam go digan sé na samana an seo, agus tá is aige nach cúteú céad faoin géad é seo. Tegam nach jig leis nach féidir leis sin a rát ó sard, mar go gaihi sé clí leis an fartí saige, but a was an seo is cuma linn sa teach faoin filitiacht. Níl sim dá léad agam sa filitiacht. Is géir céim géanúil í seo, agus buineann sé le I bhfad níos mó na cursaí airgeadis. Tá sé ag dul a bhaim go mór ar chláinte meabharchláinte a han daine, agus ag chur brú milseach ar hailí agus ar na páistís na títhe seo. So is scanal saolta é, agus tána leis an uair rá tána palateoirí a géirí bheith có sleabhain slíhananta faoin rud. Sin an rud atá ag chur saonas oríne an seo, níl sé cothram. Sin an rud.
Is cuivan lom nó raibh an mórthaíoil dhearnach a bheith a maiile clé go dúirt an tánaiste Leo Vadcur timpeall an am sin go sílan sé go bacórdaí roinste an tairgid a íoc mar tá an muoinú ag teachtán an giste airgid is ag an stát. Deirfinn go raibh anna díma ort faoin méid seo a méid sin a dúirt sé, bhí sé seo roint míon ó hin réamh an pacáiste a bheith fógartha. Bhí anna díma or an fearg beidir an ormh an raibh.
Yeah, Roger, bhí cinse. An seo an rud, bé muid a géic as. Bé muid a lig a géic na mílte as, agus an cuideas mó forward an a daoine seo, bé siad a géic na 10,000 as. So, just honest go dig for nach cúteú céad faoin géad é seo ar charbí is breig é sin, agus níl sé maith go leor go bhfuil siad a géirí na cionn líonse a churós cór an phobal nuair nach bhfuil siad fear. Choirós cór an réaltas an aib seo, 10 mbliana ó hin. Nach mór an trúa, nach ró siad tilseanach agus sásta fécinnt ar an aib mar a bhí sé, mar tá na mílte títhe tógaí ó nám sin go dtí an lá tá aniu an. So ní higlio ní féidir lo bheith tuairt amach faoin costas agus cé có castas atá sé, dúirt muid lo 10 mbliana ó hin go ró sé casta agus go béú costas milseanach a go leis. She roháil a bheith tortamach faoi sin inis, ní caithfí siad a ráit linn go bhfuil sé casta. Teigem muid an seo go bhfuil sé casta níos mó ná, níos fearr na duine ar bíella. Tá sé milse na casta, níl mi sé géirí bogu amach as mo cheachsa ar fáil bliain go lei, agus gasar agam a bhfuil uthachas air. Agus faibanna fad termacha agam sa héan, like, ní creid ha an brú atá an chur ar na chaili sa ceantar seo, agus nuair nach bhfuil sé tiltte acu.
Tá sé bhain a láidir thuas an sin an gúna gáil déile leis an aib seo, you know?
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
Tá sé do creide dom gur le cóirsibh an tóla seo a fríbrád an réaltas de blian ó hin, agus tá lá an tihí tóca ó hinna le fiú.
Oh, mílte.
Cé go raibh sé ráite a gcuibh dáibh, like, so an ris go céhhéid tihí a bhfuil tóca le Mica ó de blian ó hin?
Oh, níl is well na mílte. Bhecinn tú Buncrana mar hampla an seo. I mean, an méid títhe a tógu nuair a bhí an tígur Celtic I réim an seo. Like, mar dúirt mé tá mis macónaí ina stát títhíochta a bhfuil 8 Jack is fiche. Agus tá an cuma sin ar an scéal go bhfuil maicas na títhe I lig sin. So sin just stát amháin I Buncrana. But, I mean, tá na dul sin stát títhíochta tógaí an seo. But ní ró siad sásta éisteach le den ar bí, bhí siad a géirí just an rud a cheacans, but bhí muid a le géirí an rud a cheacans, bhí siad ag tógu, well tá siad ag ráit go bhfuil títhe tógaí, even just le ján ó 3 blian anuas a bhfuil Mica antú. Agus bhí is ag ahan daine faoi Mica le blian nó go anuas, you know. So, I mean, tá siad do creinte go bhfuil siad ag tortamach faoi cé có dúchlánach is a bhéis sé an aib a réiteach. Cinse tá sé go le bheith ionad dúchlánach, mar ní rééis sibhlinn 10 mbliain ó hin, ná 9 mbliain ó hin, ná 8 mbliain ó hin. Diggin tú darn. Like, ní heaglo bheith tortamach, agus tá siad a géirí an rud a lúbú do winter na héireann, you know, agus an cuma sin ar an scéal, an cuma sin a chur ar an scéal go bhfuil sé cothra mar atá sé nuair nach bhfuil cosnóí sé don seach sagine 3,000. Don a títhe níos mó agus teach, you know, mar dúirt mé císach bug seo teach lascaite. Don títhe móra cosnóí sé wad níos mó ná sin. Tá daoine a bhfuil airgid inéistithe acu in I dtíthe sira, agus níl siad san go le bheith clúdaithe ar charbí. Agus seo an rud dar níl áit ar bí I Buncrana ar dhéal ná ar cías. Níl lóistín ar bí ar cías a Buncrana. So seo an ceist an phobal an seo, tá háit ar rachas na chaili lig seo. Could you plan an réaltais le na haid? Tá an comisiún ar an scéal nach bhfuil Jeffar bí ar hu, but seo na ceistena atá ag cynnilt tiismothirí muscailte dúisithe san ihe an seo. Beidir go bhfuil just gebrú a bhain fága ag an seach. Tá siad ag tiite mat sa chéile. Agus nuair a hitse an teocht, agus nuair a ardaíonn an teocht, éiríonn sin níos massa. So ahan gebrú, ahan saoirú, you know, feici tú damas de milchnach, feici tú math ag teachtar an rud. Agus níl Jeffar bhí ar an réaltas, well ar a léad dul hon cinna bhí an teachtan sicáte, but ní réiteach sáú le ná bhil, no. Níl sin gol ibrú ar charbí, agus tá is acu sin. But nach mór an trúi go gaith muid trid an tamar fad. Tá muid tréachta ag trid. Tá muid thuirseach ag muoinú muid héan an tamar fad. Go háirithe do grá phobal, you know, don phobal ag gutine sa tír. Mar a dúirt mé ag glóirt le maiadí ag an Jerry Sharpton, níor hiig sésin agus fiú ní dhearna sé éireacht an rud a hiigbhil. Níor arc sé ar na figurí, just dark sé ar an cion teidil ar an nuachtáin, yeah, but it's well for them ones with their big houses in Donegal. Ní mar sin atá sé ar charbí, agus ná lig don réaltas, you know, an rud a lúbú ná bhúnlú ar a chlár héan to their agenda. Ní bhéir sé sin mai go leor, tá muidir cait faoi geir chéim géanúlaí seo, agus caithí daine cinnealta sa thuirt, takeíocht de hort, agus ar a léad cúteú céad faoin géad. Ina sin, écí muidine as an masú tí, as cúdhór costaisiala, cai muidéic as I bhhad níos mó ná an teach é héan. Agus in dhearan na dála, caihí mé bogu amach an teach, agus pilú arás an seach céarna couple of bliain in éisian. Níl dinnear bí a géirí cursuas leis an choristeach sin sa teilech, you know.